All right, the graph questions. So these are, I think, some of the hardest questions, but there's a strategy I've been using for the last, I don't know, the last while with my students, and it it works well. So graph questions. I used to, this is the formal name is command of evidence quantitative. So if you look on like SAT, College Board things, you'll see command of evidence. Um, and I used to approach these as sort of a logical human being. I'd be like, oh, I'll look at the graph and then I'll look for trends and then I'll find an answer that supports that. Like that logically as a human makes sense, right? And now I do it completely the opposite. I ignore the graph. Don't look at the graph. Don't look at the paragraph. Don't look at anything basically. Because our goal isn't to read the graph or to read the paragraph. It might eventually be, but our goal is to figure out what is the claim that we are supporting. Um, what is the claim that we are supporting? That is our entire goal for graph questions. Now, quick note, occasionally it will say we need to weaken the claim. And if you are weakening the claim, then obviously you will not support it. But most of the time you're supporting the claim. It might say you're supporting a conclusion, you're supporting an idea, you're supporting an assertion. It might even say you're supporting a hypothesis. Regardless, usually the thing you're supporting is at the end. So that is really important. It is not always at the end, but usually for graph questions, you want to look at the end. Then, so we are ignoring the beginning of the paragraph. We are ignoring the graph. Wow, true story. We are focusing extremely closely on the end where it should say something like they claim that, or they say that, they state that. One thing I've noticed, so a tiny little thing, the word that almost always, not always, but almost always appears right before whatever thing you're trying to support. So, yeah, so if you see like researchers assert that or state that or believe that, whatever comes after that is probably important. All right, now, okay, so we've ignored everything. Our next step is we're going to use the built-in highlighter again on Blue Book to highlight keywords in that claim. So what would I highlight here? Let's see. Excavation unearthed evidence suggesting suggesting A. Okay, this seems important. Sophisticated water management system. So maybe sophisticated water management system, particularly notable in highly populated regions. Okay, highly populated regions. Now, what a lot of people would do incorrectly is they would say, oh, this is like a non-essential comma phrase here, particularly notable in highly populated regions. It's probably not that important. But the claim is almost always, no, not always, but it's usually at the end. And this is even more at the end than the begin, like the other part, right? This is the end of the end. So it's probably very important. Don't skip it. All right. So we have ignored everything. We have not read the graph. We have not read the paragraph. We have found the claim. We have highlighted keywords and we have understood the claim. If you don't understand the claim, you may want to read more, right? Like you can read more. It's okay. It won't kill you. But, all right. So now what we need to do is find an answer that supports sophisticated water management system, highly populated regions. So I'll just make some up, even without reading anything and even without reading the numbers at all. We can say, okay, rural areas of low population, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter what they say because highly populated regions are not low population. That's gone. The education system was very advanced. Education is not sophisticated water management, and that doesn't have anything to do with high population. Education is not water. Wrong. In comparison to less dense areas, cities had advanced sewer irrigation. Yeah, okay, maybe densely populated, I should have said. Whatever. I wrote this like literally just right now off the top of my head. So, in comparison to less densely populated areas, okay, cities, so cities had advanced, sewer and irrigation. That is the same as sophisticated water management. Oh, sophisticated is the same as advanced. So that matches. And then cities is high population. So it is obviously, see, it ticks all the boxes. Then what we could do is we could then fact check using the graph. I would say it's always a good idea to fact check, right? Is it actually correct? And if it is, great. I would also read hello, I am option D here, but I didn't want to write one, so let's say it's not that one. But yeah, so we basically ignore everything, very carefully use our highlighter. I would physically use that highlighter feature on Blue Book. It is insanely more, like just so much easier to do this when our words are actually highlighted in front of us rather than when we have to keep rereading and trying to remember the main ideas. So this one specifically, I intentionally had a comparison. So we compared two groups. We compared the high population density of cities with the low population density areas. And that was intentional because very often, not always, but very often your right answer for anything sciency at all will compare the differences between two categories. I would write that down. So a good answer often will compare the differences between two different groups or two different categories. That might look like the control group versus the experimental group. That might look like comparing dogs versus cats. Here, comparing more versus less dense. But very often, you will want to see the difference between two categories. So things like words like while are nice because it indicates it's like, although this is the case, also that. They're like contrast words. Words like both and regardless are really red flags. Um, unless you're trying to weaken a claim. Because if you're trying to support some claim, how often do you read about a science experiment that got famous where it was like, nothing happened, both groups were the same, oops? Like, not a lot, right? The null hypothesis was not disproven. Your medicine didn't work. The control group and versus, the people who took the placebo in the control group versus the people who took the real medicine, regardless of which group they were in, it didn't matter. The same thing happened. The medicine didn't work. Haha. So yeah, that's not really going to be very helpful. So the words regardless and both, be careful. They're often, but not always, wrong. I would call them a red flag. Because again, you're typically you want to show difference. Unless it says to weaken a claim. And if you're trying to weaken a claim, then like, yeah, this is good because it shows like, oh, both groups were the same. So nothing happened, nothing changed.